Back when Blue Hour dropped, I thought that the crop tops and goth cowboys would be where TXT styling kind of peaked. And then this latest comeback happened, and I have never been happier to be proven wrong. I talked last week about what I love about the Black Swan styling, how the monochrome palette with all the different textures and fabrics within it makes such a beautiful visual. BTS does it a little bit more subdued, a little bit more classic, and then TXT took it to just an extremely extravagant level. And if there's one thing that I love, it is needless extravagance. I don't think that you can be overdressed if you're not a coward. I'm going to ignore Fight or Escape for now because if I think about Lose or Lover too long, I will lose my shit. But let's turn back the clock and go back to when 0X1 LOVESONG had their first comeback stages. Because one of those looks was just, ooh, it was so good. Big Hit really likes to do these kind of tragic AUs for their boys. And this performance for 0X1 LOVESONG, their outfits called back to the Eternally music video. And I thought that was really cool. But what I thought was even more cool was just the layering of different types of textures for these embellishments. It's just a simple white shirt, but it's got these really cool bleeding embellishments on it. And I thought that was, ooh, yeah. Yeah. I don't have my own Big Hit assigned grisly manner of death, so I had to think about it myself, and I wanted to play on the phrases bleeding heart and heart on my sleeve. So I'm gonna have a bleeding heart on my sleeve, with blood trails going all the way down and kind of gathering in a pool of blood at the cuff. I think that could be really, really cool. So I guess the concept is that I'm sensitive. I had until I finished my bowl of gummy bears to design this shirt. I didn't end up following the exact design that I had sketched out for my sleeve embellishments, but it was good just to have a kind of guide before I went into it. If you wanted to, you could easily make this project a thrift flip. You could find a white shirt at the thrift store or the vintage store and embellish it yourself. But what I wanted to do with this project was use it as a stash busting opportunity. I have a lot of fabrics and a lot of notions just kind of sitting in my studio, and I need to clear them out, so I'm going to be making my own shirt from scratch. Okay, so I needed anything red and white. Here's what I found. I found some 2-inch red fringe. And honestly, I'm not sure if this is the project to use this for. I think this is more well suited to Permission to Dance. I've got red and white piping. I think I might use the red piping on the sleeve that I'm bleeding from and the white on the other. Bunch of tiny little red teardrops that I glue on. A bunch of red lace and some white lace. Tangled mess of red ribbon. This is a bunch of red rhinestones in various sizes. It came in a little kit. I bought this a while ago. If you're wondering how I've hoarded so many things like this, it's because A, I have low impulse control, and B, I go to a lot of estate sales and secondhand shops, and a lot of these places are great resources for fabrics and notions and buttons, because if you're a crafter, you know that it's hard to resist a good deal or a really cool piece because you might use it someday. You might use it for a project, and that's how you end up with the need for stash busting projects, like this one. But it's a great way of getting things that are good quality or what you need for cheap. This is a little bag of like 50 buttons that I got at a sale for 25 cents. I try not to order from places like Amazon or Fabric.com, which is owned by Amazon, just because I don't want to line Jeff Bezos' pockets more than they already are. But sometimes the price point of that does make it genuinely the best option. But there are other places like estate sales, secondhand shops. Those are great. You can find sheet sets at thrift stores for really cheap, and that's a great way of getting a lot of fabric for a small amount of money. I'll also link down below some of my favorite independent stores if you want to splurge sometimes, if for something more sustainable, a nicer practice business, you know. I'm
I'm playing pretty fast and loose with my pattern making here just because at this point I'm pretty confident with the process of making a billowy shirt. This one I didn't want to be especially form-fitting, but I also didn't want it to swallow me completely, so my first step was measuring out a rectangle that, when quadrupled, would be about the size of my bust plus an inch or so. I don't like making buttonholes, so I decided I wasn't going to, and that most of the shirt would be sewn up the front. Then I measured down about the length of a frost album, and then added 2 inches. And this fabric I'm going to fold in and enclose and make a placket down the front that will kind of form a little bit of a V-neck. I designed this shirt to have a yoke, like an egg. To make that yoke, I measured down about 6 inches and then cut on the fold a rectangle that was the same width across as my front pieces, so it would match up in the shoulders. The rest of the back is going to be gathered into that yoke, so the width does not have to be the same. I also measured it to be a little bit longer than the front because I want party in the back. I'm gonna have a shirt mullet. I wanted billowing sleeves, but I didn't want the fullness to be at the top of the sleeve, and instead I wanted it to be concentrated down at the bottom. So instead of gathering the fabric into the shoulder seam, I decided to gather it into the wrist cuff instead. So you see me making this weird kind of bagpipe shape on the fold of my fabric and cutting that out. And of course, I needed a dramatic collar. We couldn't get out of this without me adding a dramatic collar. So I cut 2 of those out on the fold. I decided to use a French seam because my fabric frays super badly and I don't have a serger. A French seam is a method of sewing that encloses all of your raw edges so that they don't keep raveling and they won't be seen. When sewing a normal seam, you usually place the right sides out of the fabric together, sew, then flip your garment right side out. For a French seam, you start by doing the opposite. Sew with your wrong sides together and the right sides already facing out. Then iron that seam flat, clip the allowance down, and flip it inside out. Now, your right sides are together just like when sewing a normal seam. Sew a new seam a 1/4 inch away from the one you just sewed, and then you can flip the garment right sides out again, and your raw edges are successfully hidden. This might be a little bit confusing, so I'm going to include a link to another video down in the description box. Take a look at that beautiful seam. Get a load of it.
So it's a new evening, and I am going to put on all my embellishments on my sleeve before I continue on with the construction. So before I attach my sleeve, I am going to be putting on the embellishments. If you're doing a thrift flip and using an existing blouse, don't bother taking the sleeve off. You can still put the embellishments on if your sleeve is already attached to the bodice. I'm just going to not do that because it's easier. So the first part of the embellishments that I'm going to do is actually sewing down this mesh netting that I've cut into the shape of a heart. Okay, so you can see that I've sewn my applique heart on in the inside. And the reason I've put my mesh on the inside is because mesh won't ravel, so you're not going to have raw edges against your skin. I don't like that. So the raw edges of the white fabric are on the outside, and I'm going to be covering that with some of this fun gathered trim that I made from extra scraps of fabric, and they're gonna go on there. So this is the only time that I'm going to advocate for raw edges. Otherwise, I always think that you should turn them in and enclose them. unless you've had like a really bad day or are really tired or you just don't wanna, but like it is kind of like ironing your seams flat. It's one of those corners that you just shouldn't cut because it's simple and it's gonna make things look a lot better and last a lot longer. But now that that applique heart is all sewn in there, I'm gonna start appliquing around it. Got my trusty gem tack. I will also be using some red embroidery floss and a needle to attach some things. And yeah, let's time lapse, baby. My camera died for much of this process, so you only get a little bit, but this will show you pretty much exactly what I did for all of it. Just taking a dab of gem tack on a small cheap paintbrush, putting it on a gem, applying that gem where I wanted it, and so on and so forth. Doing this shirt took me about the length of one podcast episode about Vicks Vapo Rub, another episode about a psychic horse, and then one episode about a horrific crime. So I let my embellishments all dry overnight and they're all firmly secure now, and I've only got a few things left to do. I closed up my shirt since my sleeves are symmetrical just by folding along the center, lining up the underarm seams, and then pinning along the side of the shirt and the sleeves. Remember, we're doing a French seam, so that's why the right sides are out. And then I sewed in just one big ol' line right up the sides of that shirt and through the sleeves. It's done! So now it's time to get all dressed up and then get really sweaty. Gee, Billy, your mom let you have 2 looks? I've been asked, like, once you make the clothes, what do you do with them? And the answer is I wear them. Like, this is cute. I feel cute right now. If it were not 1,000,000 degrees outside, I would wear this the rest of the day. Like, this is maybe just a me thing, but I feel like I have so much less fun dressing in the summer because it's too hot. I'm more focused on the utility than the style, because in the fall and the winter and the spring I get to have fun with layering. I like to play with different textures and colors, and a lot of my statement pieces are like jackets or sweaters or types of long sleeve shirts or something. But in the summer I'm more focused on like staying cool than dressing cool. And that's why I think that temperatures above 70 degrees are homophobic. That's all I have for you this week. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you end up using this tutorial to make one of your own, or maybe doing a thrift flip, tag me. My social media is linked in the description box below, and I'd really like to see what you make. Next week we are back down down because it's JK's birthday. So we're going to be doing another BTS inspired special tribute to him. Stick around and hit subscribe if you'd like to see that. And have a great week!